Thanks for tuning in to Hobbs and Horror Movie Review Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hobbs and Horror. I'm Eric.
I'm Jason.
I'm Lance Henriksen.
Oh, you wish you were.
Yeah,
I do wish
everybody
I was.
wishes
He's
they were
such
Lance
a sweetheart.
Hendrickson.
Yeah, he is. He actually cut himself in half for Alien.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
So we are back and we are watching. I don't have internet on my computer, so I didn't look up the IMDb rating of this movie, but I'm gonna guess it was pretty low because it was not good. But it was called Nightmares.
It's just called Nightmares, yep.
And
pretty generic title.
And just so I want to get it out right now.
Yeah.
In this movie, they kill a cat. We just lost half our listeners.
Yeah.
Because at what point do you
Yeah.
continue to watch a movie, even listen to anything about a movie that kills a cat?
I was
Yeah,
waiting
so-
to see if the cat came back at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Because
They have to
you
bury
don't
it.
actually know they killed the cat.
They have to
They
bury
showed
it
the
in the
cat.
old Indian
They
burial
showed the
ground.
cat in a heap of blood on the ground.
I mean, he's, resting.
What do you think? The cat is Freddy Krueger, Gavin?
Resting.
Ah,
It was tired.
tired and bleeding everywhere.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Yeah. So this is like
Normal Tuesday night.
this is one of those anthologies where it's like 4 different short stories.
In one.
Yeah.
Is that what an anthology is?
Yeah.
I think isn't an anthology usually like 4 movies
No.
that are related?
No.
Like, isn't
not-
Star Wars an anthology?
No.
Sometimes there's an anthology is like, yeah, it's like all different short stories, but sometimes they have an arc, like a one story
Yeah,
that kind of,
sometimes there's a wraparound story.
yeah.
So what's Star Wars? If it's not an
I don't know,
anthology.
a series of movies they keep making.
That they probably shouldn't.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
I'll lean with that.
But yeah, so let's go maybe like start off with the first story and we'll just kind of go from there.
Are we gonna do it? Are we gonna divide this one up?
I mean, I don't know how else to do it.
Okay.
'Cause we've never done an anthology.
Yeah.
for
Well,
this.
we'll do it. We'll try to keep them brief.
Yeah.
Do I do plot for that then?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Okay.
real quick.
Well, the first segment has the absolute worst plot of all 4. I think is just a woman runs out of cigarettes, so she runs to go get cigarettes, but there's an escaped mental patient in the neighborhood, and it's your classic story of oh no, there's the mental patient on the loose. I hope he's not hiding in my car.
And he is.
And he is. I mean, I feel like that's a spoiler, but at the same time, like that story's been done
Yeah.
so much, so I don't think it's really a surprise.
Honestly, I don't know if that was the fact that it was because I almost feel like, well, I feel like the second story was better than the first story, but I feel like these stories got worse as the movie went along. But I don't know if it was just because I was losing more
I think that's
interest
what it
in the
was.
movie.
I don't think the second one was necessarily worse.
Oh, I don't think that. I
just
would
that-
say between the first and the second one, I was okay
Yeah.
with both of those. But then after that, it was just a slow decline
Yeah.
in the movies,
Yeah.
in each episode.
I think the first one is good in a technical sense. Like, I think the husband and wife, I think they were fine. That was well acted, well shot, all that sort of stuff. It's just completely pointless. Like, there's not. It added nothing to the movie to have that segment in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
So-
but don't you kind of feel like that's the same with all of the segments?
Maybe.
I mean,
But there is no story there. Like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's literally just like an urban legend thing
Yeah.
where that's like. Yeah.
And do you know, is this like 4 rooms where each one of them is done by a different
I was
director?
wondering that.
This
did
is the
that?
same director for all 4.
Oh, that's
Okay,
why.
it is
Yeah.
the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Same writer?
I think there's different writers for different
Each one
segments,
says
but
so.
it's the same director.
so
Okay.
you're wondering why I chose this. The only reason I chose this is because I actually owned this movie on Betamax. It was
Whoa.
yeah, like this was a movie that I had on Beta. We had a Beta player.
You had it, or like your mom had
Well,
it?
my dad.
Okay.
My parents had
I'm
it.
like, you never owned a Beta player.
Well, no. I mean, I was like 5.
I'm shocked that your dad had this movie.
Yeah, I don't know if it was my mom or my dad or what, but we had it, and I remember watching it as a kid on Beta, which for the listeners, if you not familiar with Beta, it like back in the day, there was VHS and Beta for a while, kind of like they were competing like basically like
do you remember
Blu-ray
the
and HD DVD.
Okay, and do you remember the DVD? What was the one competing with DVD? Because there was always two formats.
Was there?
Yeah,
Was
I'm
there
pretty
one
sure that there was HD DVD maybe or something
No.
like that.
I don't remember. There was one that briefly came out. There was also like a DVD format that like came in red cases, but that never really took off.
Yeah, that's the HD DVD.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that was competing with Blu-ray, and I think you're thinking of Laserdiscs. Laserdiscs
No,
were
I thought there
thing
was
for a
another
short
one that
period
was
of
pretty much the same thing as Blu-ray.
Well,
Because I thought like Sony had
I
one
thought
and
there was
Philips.
something like a
Like Sony
like
had
a
one and
16-bit
Philips had one.
something, or
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't remember what it
But
was
yeah,
called.
I just thought it was weird that was the one movie I remember watching on beta as a kid, and I was just wondering if it held up, and it did not.
Oh,
It did not hold up. But I mean,
So you were unimpressed with this movie as well?
absolutely, yeah. I'm not gonna talk this movie up.
all right.
So
Okay, so second segment.
Yeah.
Second segment. I'm not going to say it's the best of the four, but I think it's probably the most memorable of the four.
I would agree with that.
And so the second one is Emilio Estevez, who is obsessed with video games, arcade games, specifically a game called The Bishop of Battle. And so he kind of hustles people to get money so he can play this game. And for this story, he gets to the 13th and final level, which almost nobody has ever seen in this game, and things go wrong. It's cheesy in some parts for sure, but I do think it's memorable. It really helps that it has Emilio Estevez, like that.
Yeah,
helps
that makes it
a
a
lot. And I actually have a fond memory of that segment. I don't think it's
I
good.
did too.
I don't think it's good. I don't think the movie is good, but I don't know if I had seen this before. I don't think I had, but I had seen it about maybe 10 years ago in Chicago at a movie theater. And they're playing it, and through the whole segment, there's some guy in the audience.
This is going to be great.
And just he would just randomly, he'd yell out, Emilio! and it was like you shouldn't talk in theaters, it's rude.
Yeah.
But these Chicago theater events, it's totally acceptable. People yell out dumb shit all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought like that cracked me up, and it stuck. I don't know who that guy was, but I thanked that guy because that's the highlight of the movie for me, was that guy yelling out, Emilio!
That's great.
I'm going to be honest with you. That this, by far, hands down, to me, was the best segment. And I don't even think it was because it was Emilio Estevez. It just...
Yeah.
I felt like it was the most complete one.
It
the
was
other
pretty developed.
Yeah, the other three I watched them, and then they end it, and I'm like, what was the fucking point of that?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I also really like, I think honestly, this is why I remember the movie, is for that segment. Because that's the only one that I actually like stuck in my head, was like I couldn't remember that Emilio Estevez was the main character, but I do remember that there's one that takes place in a, what do they call those?
Arcade.
Arcades, yeah.
they're so old we don't even remember what they're
Which
called.
I also appreciate that. I think that's like, arcades were like a magical place when we were kids. Like, it was cool hangout place, and to make like a story like this around that, I think is really cool. And I don't think it was that unoriginal either at the time this came out. Like this, I think Tron probably came out around.
Tron would have beat this movie, yes.
And I think that probably came out first. Tron,
yes.
But I would say, like, this is probably one of the first like depictions of like a video game doing something like this.
I think that's fair. Yeah, Tron I think is 82. This is 83, and then a year or two later is Last Starfighter.
Okay.
So yeah, this was still kind of on the early edges of video games.
And see, that's what I really like. I really like about Last Starfighter too. Is it's like there's this like game that if you beat it. Like that's I just think that's like the coolest plot ever. Like,
yeah, it's like kids that are rollerbladers,
Yeah.
and they're in a gang and they run some drug called mist around. It's like the coolest concept ever.
Yes.
I have a really dumb question that's completely
About rollerblades?
no, not about rollerblades, but we should have questions about rollerblades. But
Yeah.
no, this is about arcades.
Oh.
Like what's kids today's arcade?
Well, they're still arcades.
Well, they're still arcades, but they're not nearly as big a deal.
I think they're crappy, personally.
But like,
Yeah.
what's that thing?
I don't think kids really have anything like that now. That's
They
the
just
sad
don't.
part
They
of
don't
it.
have a public place that they
No.
hang out.
I don't know.
No,
I mean,
you got to think.
ask the kids. I guess
You got to think. Even when we were graduating high school and just after, like, think about what, kids would cruise the Ave because there was nowhere to go.
What
They-
about?
or they would go
but
and
there
s-
was Perkins, man, and there was Country
Perkins,
Kitchen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or people like in small towns will hang out in the parking lot of Walmart, which is a weird.
Well,
thing.
don't be. I mean, well, I guess Appleton's a small town,
It's a fair
but
question,
they did
though.
that in Appleton too. So
I mean, yeah, there was Perkins, Country Kitchen, coffee shops, the arcade, the mall in general.
Yep.
There was, some people probably bowling. That wasn't my thing, but I imagine bowling alleys was a thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not sure what
Skating rinks.
Yeah, skating rinks. I'm not sure what the version of that is now. I'm really not sure.
maybe it's still just all of them.
Yeah, but I don't think it is though.
I don't
feel
think it is either,
I feel like
but-
all of those have really kind of collapsed.
I think so, and I don't think they've really been replaced.
That's weird.
I think the newer generation
Just sits at
kids-
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hang out, at each other's houses or something.
Oh, well, that's sad.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That's sad. Sad story.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right,
to be-
so back to the movie.
Yeah. Anything else on the Bishop of Battle?
I mean, I think it's worth talking about that one because I thought by far that was the best one. I thought Emilio Estevez did a good job. It was kind of not an original story, but it was not one that you hear too much. It wasn't like the first one. The first one was just like,
Mhm.
The first one was cheap. That took
Yeah.
all of about 30 seconds for him to come up with.
yeah.
that.
So at least this one, they kind of dug deeper and, but again, like with this one, I kind of wish they would have made the whole movie that story and just cut out the other 3 chapters.
They could. They
because-
honestly could have because. See, now I'm going to say nice things. Like the Bishop of Battle segment, it has its flaws, but like I like that it has Emilio Estevez and his little buddy like going across town to different arcades, and you've got like he's in like the Hispanic neighborhood.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, they don't know me here,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that was kind of neat, and it really made like. I'm not sure where they were. It looked like New York, but apparently it must have been San Francisco because they had the Raiders.
Mhm.
But wherever they were, like it really had a lot of like the scenery of what a town, like a city looks like. And I thought that was really cool. Like when you can make a city a character in a movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could definitely expand that out to him, wandering around town, challenging people and doing things like that.
Well, and even if the next segment had become them trying to get him out of the video game,
oh sure,
because I guess we didn't talk about this on the podcast, but at the end of the movie, at the end of the chapter, I guess they call it, he ends up stuck in the video game.
yeah.
Mhm.
And like a logical next step would have been to get him out of there, and I think that would have been a much better chapter than the last 2 chapters. And if they had done that, they didn't have to kill a cat.
Yeah. One thing that I do think is this movie suffers from though is the special effects.
Yeah.
And I think it's just an unfortunate coincidence because it's like the things they were trying to portray, like the video game one, when the video game comes to life, in order to do that, you had to use that shitty special effect from the 80s.
Yeah.
But
And-
I thought
and
it
I
worked
didn't-
in that
Yeah,
segment.
I didn't hate that. See, that was my memory. Like I had said before we started the movie, that the effects were really dated, and that's what I had in mind was the video game segment.
Yeah.
But actually watching it, it didn't bother me at
It's
all.
not that-
because they were playing video games that's what they looked like.
Yeah,
True,
I mean,
true.
the real life video game looked exactly like the video game.
Yeah.
So
it looked cheesy, but video games look freaking cheesy in the early
Yeah.
80s.
yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like, just overall, I think where they kind of cheaped out on the special effects, like in the later episode with the rat.
Yeah.
Definitely could see
the
the rat
rat's
was
bad, and the truck is bad. There's some.
See, I didn't
problems.
think the truck would. What didn't you like about the truck?
Well, we're not to that segment yet.
Oh, okay.
Let's go to the next segment.
Okay, so segment 3, chapter 3, is the benediction, and it's Lance Henriksen as a priest, and I don't know if they made it really clear what happened, but for whatever reason, he starts questioning whether he still believes or not, and he ends up kind of quitting, or he's about to quit, and he's going on the road to try to start a new life, not as a priest. And while on the road, a demon truck comes flying out of hell and chases him on a desert highway.
A demon Chevy truck.
Okay, a demon Chevy truck.
Which I just found it kind of strange that it was a Chevy truck, but it was from hell.
Yeah.
So apparently in hell,
They have Chevy.
yeah, they have domestic vehicles in hell.
Sure.
But yeah, so why he lost his faith was because I believe there was a kid who died.
There was a kid who died.
And he couldn't save him or something. There was a scene where he was trying to do chest compressions on this kid.
Yes, badly, I might add.
Yeah. Yeah, don't take your safety course.
Yeah,
in
I
this
wouldn't.
movie.
I wouldn't have Lance Hendricks ever try to revive
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But I think that's what happened is that he just started to question because why would you let a kid die or whatever, or something like that, which
But
is
I thought
weird.
There was a thing where the other priest that works with him, I thought he asked him, did you quit because the kid died?
Yeah.
And he responds something like, do you really think I'm that
Oh.
simple or something? I don't remember what his actual words were, but he
Yeah.
made it sound like that wasn't the thing.
No.
That
did
was
it.
probably part of it.
I think it
but
was
there
like the straw that broke.
Yeah.
I think, but there was probably a lot more that they just didn't get into. But
Yeah.
but yeah, like that. This one I felt was a pretty weak one too. Because
Yeah, this one I didn't have a problem watching it or anything like that.
it just fell flat.
Yeah, there was just it was
was
again at the end you were like, okay, what was the point of that?
Yeah.
I was expecting there something to happen, but it basically this thing chases him around and flips his car. The police come and then it's over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no payoff. There's really nothing. I thought something would happen after that, and then they just went to the next chapter.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree. I still enjoyed it, but the only reason I enjoyed it is because of Lance.
Yeah.
Because Lance, I'm gonna call him by his first name, Lance.
Yeah, you guys know each other well now.
We've met.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has fond memories. No, but I mean, I could watch him in almost anything. I just really like his presence on screen,
Yeah.
so that helped. But yeah, I feel like this is a segment where he's got a really complex character, but they didn't develop it at all. They they hinted at a lot of things,
Yeah.
but they didn't develop almost any of it.
I would say that this segment was the one that they had, if I was going to tell you to make a movie out of two of these segments, it would be the video game segment in this segment.
Yeah.
But that said, I think that this could have made a big movie, but as the clip as it was, it fell really flat. I think
100%.
I think the first segment was probably better than this segment because there was just too much of what just happened
Right.
here in
I
this
agree.
one.
I
So,
agree. Yeah. I think you could definitely expand this out into a movie length or at least a longer segment. I think for sure. But yeah, it's weak to me because I don't fully grasp why the demon truck
We don't
came
even know
after
if
him.
it was a demon truck even.
Well,
We don't
it came
even-
out of hell.
We don't even know if it restored his faith.
We don't. It seemed. I think we're supposed to think that it did because he told them to take him back to his parish at the end.
That's right. That's right.
So I think there's that.
But they didn't really expound on that at all. And
Yeah.
that's what I feel like, if that's the whole point.
But yeah, it was weird. I'm having a crisis of faith. All of a sudden, the truck comes out of the ground and chases me. I throw holy water at it. It goes poof and vanishes. That's the bad effect of this section that I'm talking about. It'd be cool if you threw holy water at the truck and it exploded or did something really, really
But it
cool.
just kinda
But it just went boop it's gone. And I'm like, really? That's what happens? Huh?
Yeah.
Did they show the truck coming out of the water, out of the ground, and I just missed that completely?
You must not have been watching.
Yeah,
They
I must have
literally
just
show it
been
coming
looking
out
at
of
my
the
phone.
ground.
Yeah,
at
it
that
does.
moment.
It just shoots right out of the ground.
Ground, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so yeah, I thought that was cheesy. And then yeah, it's like I don't know what the point of that was. Like, okay, you're having doubts. A demon truck comes after you, and now you're like, oh, I guess there's demon trucks out there. I believe again now. Like,
Well, and that's a weird thing. Like
What?
when you reach an end of a movie or like an anthology story segment like this, and you're like, was that it? Was that the end? That's not a good place to be.
right.
Right. Like there's no real
Closure. Right.
Yeah, there's just not. Like and I don't like that when I'm watching something and then it's like, oh, that's the end. Oh, okay. Like there should be something that leaves you with a feeling or like.
And it's funny because now that you're talking about that, Jason,
Mm-hmm.
you said all of the same things when we watched The Lost Highway. Because there was no closure, there was really no explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it bothers me in this movie, but it really doesn't bother me in The Lost Highway.
It doesn't bother me in Lost Highway, but I think that's more like I expect that.
Yeah. I guess.
Like that's a totally different kind of movie where if you're looking for there to be, you walk out of there being like, oh wow, like no, like you went to the wrong movie.
Yeah.
Whereas here there should be a tighter. Tighter script.
And like I've said this on other podcasts too. Like I do appreciate an ending where it's like, okay, we're not sure what to do. Let's just do something ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Then that's fine
you mentioned
too.
like nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, like that type of thing. I'm all for that. Like if you don't have somewhere to go that makes sense, like let's just make it not make sense, but just do something crazy over the top, and as long as it evokes something in the when you're watching it, so that you're not just left wondering what just happened or why did that happen or is this really the ending? Is there more to it?
All right.
What's
chapter 4?
Yeah.
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4. I don't remember what it's called, like Night of the Rat or something.
It is.
Yeah.
That's
It's offensive.
Night of the Rat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So chapter 4, we've got a husband, wife, and daughter. The husband
And a cat.
and a cat.
Oh, you'll never get over that.
And the husband, for reasons that aren't entirely made clear, has some very stressful job and has become kind of an ass because of it. He early on explains to his wife that he's tough because that's how you get things done, which I fine. That's cool, like at work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he really is a total ass to his wife.
Yeah, he is.
And I don't understand why, because that's not him being tough and solving problems. That's just him being an ass.
Yeah.
So I don't really grasp that. But either way, they have a rodent problem, and it soon becomes apparent that it's not your normal, oh, I got a mouse in the house problem. There's something big enough that's tearing giant holes in the wall.
Knocking cupboard, like counters or cupboards out of the wall and stuff. It's ridiculous.
So after the husband is a total ass and turns the exterminator away.
The Jewish exterminator?
They don't say that.
They don't. But he is a Jewish exterminator.
How do you know that?
I can tell. He's Jewish.
I don't know if I want to agree to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad.
He was just an
There's nothing wrong with
exterminator.
that.
He's just an exterminator.
Yeah.
Don't make assumptions.
Oh, is that anti-Semitic?
I don't know. It depends how you think. You know.
Yeah. Like why you're.
He had a very like he talked Jewishly.
Okay.
I don't really think that Jewish people talk any particular way.
I don't want to agree to any of this.
I don't know. Okay, maybe not.
But anyway, so he turns the exterminator away, and then he has to handle it himself. Which, again, going back to earlier, where his wife is like, you could solve something with a word, but instead you choose a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
He follows through with that same logic, and instead of doing what you would normally do to handle a rodent situation, he goes straight to the shotgun.
Yeah. So we're at a point now where there is a grown man running around trying to shoot a rat with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem really reasonable
Ends
at
up
all.
destroying a lot of his own house in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, and the rat, like the exterminator, when he's talking to the wife on the phone, explains that like I don't know, he read some book or something, or there's it's some supernatural rat that can't be killed.
Yeah.
And it attaches itself to like some evil person or something like that.
Yeah.
So that we're led to believe, I think, that the husband
is the reason the rat's there.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't catch that.
Yeah. And then, I don't know. I liked this segment. Like this one and the video game one, I think were probably my favorites out of the.
Really?
I like this one to a point.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of any time a movie has a guy who's like, wait, I got an old book in my library.
Yeah, see, that's why.
and he pulls it out
Yeah.
and he's like, this reminds me of that rat from 300 years ago that attacked Germany.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that they've got like the old style drawings of what the rat looked like.
Yeah.
That's cool. But that wasn't enough to save this segment for me because
the husband.
Because the payoff at the end was so bad.
I thought you were gonna say because the husband was such a douchebag that
the
he
husband being a douchebag, I can let this. I don't understand it, but I can let it slide. It's the fact that when they finally reveal the monster rat, you're like, really?
Yeah.
It's so horrible, man.
Well, the problem was they did like the blue screen thing where like you can really tell that the rat is not there. The lighting and everything, it just, you can tell it's so apparent that the rat is not in the room.
Yes, and I mean,
like they could have even just built a small room, like dollhouse that looked like the room and put a rat in it, and like make it, I mean, something where it's not so strikingly obvious.
Yeah, and once you film that and you look at it, just take it out of the damn movie because it's not gonna do any favors.
Yeah, I was surprised, like, not only how bad it was, but that they kept showing it.
Yeah.
Because that's like one thing you should know to do. If it doesn't look good, don't keep showing it.
So, and I will say, like, there's scenes where it did look okay when they have close-ups and he's like, oh.
Yeah. It had its moments.
That was okay. Man, that was still pretty bad.
I know, but that was at least funny, and it didn't look as terrible close up.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is a thing, but I think it probably always looked terrible, but I wonder if when you clean up a movie, stuff like that just looks that much worse.
Oh, like
because there's probably no way to clean up
the rat.
Yeah.
So the rat's going to still look like the crappy, film version.
And it's also could be too. Just the
George
freaking
Lucas
TV.
in there to digitally correct it.
That's what I was gonna say. Like this would be a movie where I feel like it would be appropriate to do some of the, like, make it look a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because I don't think
there's no way it's worth spending the money on to do it.
Yeah.
But they could definitely improve it.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't think it would cost that much at all to make it anything that would be better than this, you know? But I think, like, it's like there's certain scenes in movies that are like cheesy, but they're beloved. They're like, like, okay, this looks bad, but we love it.
Yeah.
This isn't one of those.
That just looks bad.
Like this is one that's like, okay, like you could clean this up. It would drastically improve.
Yeah.
The whole thing. So, but yeah.
And the most important thing is that in this final segment, the rat does kill their family cat.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which is just something you should never do in a movie.
It's true, but
yeah.
So yeah. Any thoughts as a whole? I have a thought as a whole.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay, so this is a general comment on anthology movies, and that's that I don't mind if an anthology has like a dud segment. That's fine.
Yeah.
And immediately coming to mind are Creepshow and Creepshow 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those, I don't know if they're the best anthology films, but they're some of the better anthology films. But I would also say that both of them have one or two segments that aren't necessarily the best. But I'm okay with that because they also both have segments that are freaking great.
Yeah.
Now, the bad segments in Creepshow, are they better than the best segment in this show, or would you say worse?
I don't know if they're better than the best in this one, but I mean, like, this is what comes to mind. There's a segment, I think it's in the first one. I get the two confused.
Yeah,
but
which one?
But one of them has like Old Chief Woodenhead.
That's the first one.
I think that's a weak segment.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Whereas, like, in Creepshow 2, there's a segment, The Raft, which I think is undebatably the best segment.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, like,
I was getting ready to pounce on you.
oh,
man.
you thought I was going to say that was the bad
I thought
segment?
you were going to, and I was
No.
about to.
The Raft is you can't say there's a better segment.
No.
You just can't.
You watched that as a kid. You're not getting into a lake
Yeah.
to swim.
You could have the whole rest of the movie could be duds, and the movie would still be worth watching just for that.
Absolutely. Which that one's based off of a Stephen King short story. Too.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, that's really funny because I've read that short story.
Okay.
Yeah.
The minute you said it, I'm like,
Have you not seen that Creepshow 2 with the
No,
raft?
I don't think so.
Oh, you might sit down and watch just the raft. Go to that one if you don't want to sit through all of them, but you should probably watch the raft at some point.
So, but
I know the story's
so
really good.
what I'm getting at with that is that so you got like that. You've got Tales from the Dark Side, which is a great anthology as well.
Yeah.
And then you got Nightmares, which you've got like maybe one good, not great, but one good segment, and then three and you can't carry a movie like that. Like if the first segment, which I think was the worst one of the four, I mean your mileage may differ, but if that one was bad and the other three were decent, I can forgive that. I can be like, okay, that's cool. We said to work our way in, fine. But this one it doesn't have that standout segment. I mean, the Bishop of Battle is the one that stands out, but not so much where it's a must-have movie or a must-see movie.
Right. Yeah, this was very much like a pretty forgettable, I mean, that's why I've seen it several times and I still didn't remember it. I had to watch it again to see if it was any good.
Yeah.
So. I think it was just interesting because it's so funny because I can see something being good from a couple of the segments, like if you turned them into full featured films, but on the way they are in the movie, none of them were that good, which was just a disappointment.
Yeah, and I will say, so as part of the background of this, so the movie was put together in 1982. It was released in 83, but it was put together in 82 with the purpose of pitching it to NBC to make an anthology television series. That was the goal. And NBC didn't want it. They didn't, not that they didn't want it, but they didn't want the TV series. So NBC and Universal are the same company. So they took the Universal end of it, packaged it together, and released it as a movie. So I can't say whether that was the right or wrong decision, but I can understand why the executives at NBC sat through this and they're like, do we want to show this stuff every week? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would have bombed big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if this is the best they had going into it,
Yeah. If they were showing their best stuff to try and get picked up, man, they were in a lot of trouble.
Well, because Gavin and I, we've been watching Creepshow for the last,
not the movies, the show,
the TV show,
right?
And you've noticed, like, the first two seasons were pretty solid, but now we're starting to get into some ones.
I'd say the first two seasons are hit and miss, but there's a lot more hit than the later seasons.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Like there's some that aren't the greatest, but like now we're into season 3, you can tell they're starting to run out of steam.
Yeah.
The
last. I think the last 2 episodes we watched really were
weak.
Yeah.
They weren't even as good. They wouldn't even be good Goosebumps episodes.
I can't argue with that. I mean, they're pretty mediocre. They really are. Yeah.
So if you're coming out the gate with these 4 stories that we watched today, and you're trying to pitch a TV show, I wouldn't. I'd be like, Dan, no. If this is the best you got, what is season 3 going to be like? This is the first 4. Mm-hmm. What's the rest of it going to be like? Because obviously you don't go into it with your shittiest ideas to pitch it. Yeah. So ratings.
Do you guys want to rate each one individually, or do you want to
let's
just do
rate
it?
it overall.
Rate it overall. I actually feel like I'm going to be higher than
You might
you
be
guys.
higher than me.
I promise you'll be higher than me.
Yeah, I know I'll be higher than you. I'll go first because of that. So I feel that this is too high of a rating, but I'm doing it anyway, and I'm going 3.9.
Okay.
I feel bad going really any lower than that because, like, it's not a bad movie. It's not a good movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just just a completely forgettable movie. But because it does have some parts that I still enjoyed, I don't really want to go too much lower than that. So I'm going to say 3.9, just to squeak it under the 4 there.
You go, Jason.
Right. Well, I surprisingly, I'm going to go higher than that.
Okay.
But I have a really stupid reason for it.
Okay.
What was the movie we just watched? A Kid in King. Okay, what
Yeah,
did I give that?
A Kid in
5.2.
King
I'm
Arthur's
giving this
Court.
a 5.3 because I can't rate this lower than A Kid in King Arthur's Court.
What?
Well,
That's
don't
your
worry.
reason?
That's basically because if I look at it objectively, like I would sit down and watch this again. I'm probably not going to watch A Kid in King Arthur's Court.
I would probably watch this movie again before I watched A Kid in King Arthur's Court.
Right.
But I can say without a doubt that A Kid in King Arthur's Court was a better movie.
Yeah, so it's probably it's probably a better movie. I mean but yeah, I can't. I can't.
I'm just going to stick with my original thought. I'm going to give it a 1 because I think, first of all, I mean, I hate to keep bringing it up, but they did kill a cat. And 2,
automatic 1.
Let's just tell the listeners though that he said that as soon as they killed that cat, he said before they killed the cat, if they kill that cat, this movie's getting a 1.
Yeah.
I did. But there's more to it than that because
they didn't really kill a cat, you know.
I do think that so the way this movie is together, there is potential in the movie, but just as the way it is, there is absolutely no reason to ever watch it again. And I don't know why either one of you would ever watch it again because all of the stories are very, very underwhelming.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'd watch the Emilio Estevez segment again. But I don't really see why because there's not really much there.
I want to cut you off, and I want to answer your accusation there. This is, I don't know about Jason. This is my thing. A Kid in King Arthur's Court. My odds of watching it again are very low because I wouldn't purposely do it.
Right.
And I don't know that it would come up. The reason I would probably watch this movie again is because 5 years from now or 10 years from now,
you're gonna be like,
hey, you want to watch Nightmares?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be like,
I don't know.
remember if I liked that or not.
Yeah.
And then I'd watch it.
This is what's happened to me every 10 years of my life with this movie.
So like if 6 months from now someone says, do you want to watch Nightmares? I'm gonna say no. But I know in 5 years from now, I'm going to forget that it's boring, and I'm going to be like, I like anthologies. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my reason. Not that I would purposely watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
So
but
basically,
it's inevitably going to come up at some point.
So basically, 5 years from now, you're going to come over to Jason's house, and Jason is going to be looking through his DVDs, and he's going to be like, dude, there's that movie, and I used to have this on Betamax when I was a kid.
Yeah.
We should watch it. I'm sure it's not good, but we should watch it.
Yeah.
That's 100% what's going to happen.
Yeah. And we're gonna have that memory of the fleeting memory of the arcade, and we're gonna be like,
yeah,
I remember that being
that
cool.
wasn't that bad. And then little did you realize everything else was.
That's the thing. Like when I don't know about Jason, but for me, like when a movie is bad, I don't usually remember that it's bad. I just don't really remember it.
That's how it is. Yeah.
And so so then when it comes around where it's long enough that that the memory of it being bad is completely gone, then I'm just like, I don't know if I remember that one. And and I'm not smart enough to realize I don't remember it because it was bad.
Yep.
So now
100%.
Out of did everybody give their review, their number?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So What were your two favorite? What were your two favorite segments?
The two favorite. Well, Bishop of Battle is one for sure.
So number two.
Number two. Then I guess I'd have to say the Rat. It's a toss up because I feel the Rat failed at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Lance Henriksen one, but I don't think that it was strong overall. So if I had to pick two, I guess the Rat's my second one.
And that would be mine too.
See, and I would do the Lance Hendrickson one as
Okay.
my second one.
I just didn't like the way that one ended. I think that had a little bit better momentum. Like it was building to something cool. But I think like they didn't, because they just kind of ended it. Like, you know,
I agree.
He throws holy water on it. Poof, gone. All right, police show up. We're done. Like
I agree with you 100%. But I thought that the fact that one had a lot going for a while, and then it just fizzled out and died.
Yeah.
To me, the Rat one. In fact, I would go as far as to say that I cannot forgive the Rat one
For the cat.
No, not for the cat. For how bad that rat was at the end of I can't give that any.
Well, that's the thing, that if it wasn't for them revealing the Rat looking so dumb, up to that point, I think it's a fun segment because it reminds me, and this movie came out first, but it reminds me of movies like House and House 2, where, you know, there's a problem in the house and you call in. I mean, in one, they call in John Ratzenberger.
Yeah.
And he's got a business card that says something like electrician.
Interdimensional.
Yeah. Where like he's coming in to check why the electricity isn't working right. But in the process, he opens up like a portal into this other world. And it reminds me of things like that where, you know, what's in the wall? When we finally find out in Nightmares, it's disappointing, but there's so much potential of what that creature could be.
It also kind of reminded me of Food of the Gods.
Okay.
You know.
Well, in the crappiness of the...
Yeah. That's what it reminded me of. But I think Food of the Gods was a little better. Like if I remember right. Food of the Gods 2.
That I don't know.
Oh, okay. That one, I thought that the rats actually... I mean, they still look, incredibly fake. But, like... for some reason with that one I let it slide. I don't know why, but yeah, that's was my first thought. Was it kind of reminded me of that because that's another movie with
Food of the
giant
Gods
rats.
2, I don't know, but Food of the Gods. I mean, so like this guy named Burt Gordon. Burt Gordon passed a couple years ago, but like he was known for that. He made a whole series of movies where all it is like people and large animals, but the large animals are so obviously like superimposed, just regular animals. And sometimes it works, sometimes it's really, really cheesy, but that was his thing. And he worked in the 50s and 60s when you could get away with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It didn't work in the rat segment. So.
No.
I'm actually surprised that you guys picked that. You both picked that as your favorite.
Because of what it's going up against.
Yeah, but I thought, I get it. The Lance Hendricks ending was terrible.
I think that needed more development. If it was developed better, that I would have picked that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that one
I want to pick that.
I think that one, if you do it,
but I don't even get like in the beginning, like he has this dream where he's like, "Oh, I got a deer. I love you, deer," and then the snake shows up. The snake bites him and he whips it. Like I get there's supposed to be some sort of a deep meaning there about the serpent and biblical shit. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
get what they're going for.
Yeah, that is very true. So I guess. All right, I'll let you guys slide on it.
Okay.
But overall, I thought this movie was pretty awful anyway.
Yeah,
so.
it was.
Jason, you should probably just throw it away. Just so you don't ever watch it again.
Yeah.
5 years from now, he'll be like, "Oh, I don't have that. I better buy that."
Well, one of the things I like about doing this podcast is it gives me like an excuse to buy movies that I'm on the fence about.
Well, we can always just do it on the podcast.
Yeah. We're like, well, you know what? This is for the podcast.
No, I think, but this is good. Like if you're gonna watch Nightmares, and I'm not recommending anybody does, but if you did, it's better to watch it with a group of people. I mean, because even if everybody hates it, which they will, you can at least all bitch about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise, you just wasted your night.
That's true. That's very true.
But now this is going to be one of our longest podcasts ever, so we're winding this down.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, just because there was 4 segments.
It didn't, but yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
So all right, we're going to wrap this up, and
I hope this podcast wasn't as boring as the movie.
I don't think it was.
I hope
I don't
not.
think it was. So, but anyways, we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to Hobbs and Horror Movie Review Podcast. Join us in 2 weeks for another exciting movie review.